From Vermont Public Radio, this is The Frequency. I'm Anna Van Dyne.
And I'm Henry Epp. It's Monday, October 4th. Here are today's headlines.
On Saturday, a crowd of demonstrators gathered on the State House lawn in support of reproductive rights. Similar rallies took place across the country, spurred by new restrictive abortion laws in Texas and the uncertain future of Roe v. Wade. Siobhan McCarty was in the crowd in Montpelier. She's an OBGYN who practices at Gifford, and she says abortion is safe and science-based.
But for some reason, it continues to be fought in our court systems between our representatives and senators, which are historically male and historically white men.
Some Vermont lawmakers are continuing to push for an amendment to the state constitution, which would explicitly protect reproductive rights. If passed, Vermont would be the first state to enshrine reproductive freedom in its constitution.
Vermonters who've benefited from the state's emergency motel housing program are asking Governor Phil Scott to extend it. Olive Lavalette has been living in a state-subsidized motel room for nearly 6 months. She says people in her situation have nowhere else to turn.
And this isn't on people like us. It's on the state for not supplying affordable housing for the disabled and vulnerable to make sure that we are safely and consistently housed.
The emergency motel housing program is set to expire next month. Lavalette and other advocates want Governor Scott to extend it until at least December 31st.
The health department reported 230 cases of COVID-19 on Saturday, 124 on Sunday, and more than a dozen backdated cases over the weekend. 3 more Vermonters have died from the virus, and 43 people are hospitalized. Meanwhile, 88% of eligible residents are at least partially vaccinated.
And now it is time for bonus data. Today's number is 54%. That's the percentage of Vermonters in a recent survey who said COVID-related disruptions have made them less productive at work. The survey was led by researchers at UMass Amherst and Amherst College. And Anna, this is a really wide-ranging report looking at a bunch of different ways that the pandemic affected Vermont households. So I want to just pick out a couple interesting findings. Mm-hmm. So 55% of parents with 1 or more kindergarten-aged child said disruptions to school or childcare impacted their work, quote, a lot, while just 16% of parents of middle school-aged children said the same. And the survey also found a stark gender divide in the division of childcare. So 84% of female respondents said they do more managing of children's scheduling and activities, and only 11% of male respondents said they do more than their partner of that kind of thing.
That's worse than I thought.
It's really low. So yeah, dudes, step up.
Coming up, maintaining crowded recreation trails. That story after this.
The Frequency has support from New England Federal Credit Union, dedicated to working with members to reach their financial goals. Now serving most Vermont counties and 4 in New Hampshire. Visit nefcu.com for more information. Thanks, MVP Healthcare, for supporting The Frequency. MVP Healthcare, partnering with the UVM Health Network to provide Vermont with new Medicare Advantage plan options. Info at uvmhealthadvantage.com.
The pandemic has spurred more people to go out hiking, running, and biking than ever before. And according to the Outdoor Industry Association, more than 60% of Americans surveyed said they plan to continue those activities. And this time of year, with the leaves changing, lots of folks are enjoying fall hikes. In Vermont, that's pushing trail industry experts across the state to think more sustainably about how to accommodate future crowds. Our colleague Nina Keck reports.
I'm bushwhacking through the woods with trail designer Mariah Keggy.
From here, we're going to head up this way.
She's using GPS and years of experience to map out a new trail in Waitsfield.
And what I'm aiming to do is be on just enough of a side slope so that way we get proper drainage.
So where are we?
So we are at Scragg Mountain Town Forest. It's a very, 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 very cool spot. In terms of, it goes up to the summit of Scragg and some really nice waterfalls and just sort of some really pretty natural features.
During the pandemic, beautiful places like this saw a lot more runners, dog walkers, and day hikers. Things Keggy is thinking about as we make our way up to a waterfall.
So we have this beautiful natural feature that we want to highlight for folks. The question is, do we make the whole main trail go this way, or is it a spur? Do we invite everybody to come see the waterfall on their way up? Or is it going to be something that you have to go out of your way to do a little bit? And there's benefits to both of them.
For instance, all those dogs on the trail may be cute, but they poop, trample, and dig. And too much foot traffic near water can speed up erosion. But sustainability on trails doesn't just mean addressing ecology, water, or moose habitat. In Vermont, more than 70% of the state's recreational trails are on private land, so sustainable relationships with property owners are also key.
103 private landowners make our trails possible.
That's Abby Long, Executive Director of the Kingdom Trail Association. It's a nonprofit that manages 100 miles of multi-use trails in northeastern Vermont. On a recent Wednesday, a steady stream of mountain bikers was checking in at the Kingdom Trails Welcome Center. The popularity of these trails was growing well before the pandemic. From 2013 to 2018, Long says mountain bike traffic was up 132%. Travel restrictions this past year reduced those numbers, but ridership is rebounding with people like Athena McElhenney, a Connecticut resident who was getting ready to ride with her sons.
And now I bought my very first mountain bike in May, and the boys are riding. One's riding his cousin's old mountain bike, and the other one got his own mountain bike. So we're very first-time riders on Kingdom Trails this year.
Abby Long is thrilled by all the new riders, but she wants everyone who uses the Kingdom Trails to keep one thing straight.
It's a privilege to be here and accessing private land.
Long has good reason to stress this point. In late 2019, the Kingdom Trails community was jolted when 3 landowners restricted access because of poor behavior by mountain bikers.
So it's my responsibility as the head of this organization to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Long says they've made a commitment to better communicate with property owners. They've created a code of conduct for trail users and expanded their ambassador program.
Staff, employees that we pay to be a presence out on the trail. Those folks are there to provide information, but also to hold people accountable.
The nonprofit also partnered with local leaders on a capacity study, which Long says will help them better mesh future parking, signage, water, and bathroom needs with the local community.
We now have recommendations for safe traffic flow, safe pedestrian crossings in the thick of the community, and an ideal welcome center location.
Land conservation is also playing a role in trail sustainability. Working with the Vermont Land Trust and others, Long says the nonprofit purchased 271 acres of land in Linden, much of which belonged to former Jay Peak owner Ariel Quiros. The deal ensures several miles of heavily used trails will remain open to the public. A 2-hour drive south of Burke, Angus McCusker meets me at the entrance of the Rochester Valley Trails, which he helped develop.
It's safe to say we've been busier than ever. It's crazy. As soon as COVID came around, everybody all of a sudden decided, hey, let's go out, hit the trails.
McCusker believes one way to sustain the state's increasingly popular mountain bike trails is to connect them. He's spearheading efforts to create the Velemont Trail, which would run from Canada to Massachusetts.
It's not really a new concept. It's a new concept for mountain biking, but it's been proven to work well for Vermont, and it helps spread people out all over the state.
Besides helping with increasing congestion, McCusker believes it could be a big economic driver for the state and help fund ongoing trail maintenance. Nick Bennett, Executive Director of the Vermont Mountain Bike Association, agrees. He believes the governor and other state officials recognize the potential for outdoor recreation, and he says groups like the Vermont Trails and Greenway Council are helping create a unified vision for thoughtful trail development. But he worries those efforts will be bogged down by the state's Act 250 permit process, which he says needs updating.
Everyone acknowledges the need to modernize and to understand that trail building has evolved over the past 20 years. And we have organizations, not just mountain bikers, but in different trail advocacy organizations throughout Vermont that are committed to ecologically, environmentally sustainable trails that are socially beneficial, and we follow practices and things like that.
Thoughtful development is vital, agrees Abby Long. But if Vermont wants to continue touting its outdoor recreation to attract more visitors, she says state lawmakers will also need to come up with a way to reward the private landowners who make much of that recreation possible. For VPR News, I'm Nina Kack.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld.
It's never a bad time to email your Wildlife Wednesday sounds to thefrequency@vpr.org. Our executive producer is Mark Davis, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Henry Epp.
And I'm Anna Van Dyne. Talk to you tomorrow.